Really happy to see you guys here. Thank you so much for coming out. Day one of the Supermodel Project, New York Fashion Week Model Suite. This has been 2 years in the making, and I'm just really it's so validating. I'm very moved that you guys are all here. So thank you. I guess I just want to start off, by just having us all just have a moment to think about Giorgio Armani, Mr. Armani. As everyone knew him as Mr. Armani. It was always very a sign of respect. And someone like Giorgio not only made such an impact on fashion, but he never wavered from his vision. He never wavered from his brand. And when he got sick about like 8 or 9 years ago, everyone thought we were going to lose him, but he came back and he went back to work. He never did anything in his life but being dedicated to his brand. And there's something very, very powerful about that. And the thing about Giorgio, or Mr. Armani, was as much as people know him by his name, by his pictures, by his black shirts and his white hair, when you were backstage, he was there like helping style you. He was there fixing your hair. Imagine being in your chair right before the show and he's fixing your hair. It's like because he cared. This was his product. And you have to be proud of your product. And when you're proud of your product, that's when everything goes right. And that's what I do every day as an agent, is I don't sell unless I'm proud of my product. And I want you guys to think about, do not put yourself out there unless you are proud of your product. Because it starts with that. All right? Betty, anything to say about Giorgio Armani, Mr. Armani?
Can you hear me? Yes? This is on?
Kind of have to like
Speak. Okay.
Brianna, is this our thing on? Did we start filming? All right.
A lot of you are really young. I'm not. I'm 57, and I feel like he's been a part of my consciousness, ever since I started reading magazines in the 80s, and it's just like always seeing Giorgio Armani. So it's like, those people in your life when you're like, oh, they're always going to be around, right? Your grandparents, your parents, it's like that. So when he died, it was like, oh my God. I mean, we knew it was coming. He was 91 years old, but somehow he still persevered. And I think that his joy of life, appreciation of life and his dream and bringing people into his world was really incredibly inspiring, And you can see all the social media posts about him, how much of an icon and legend he is, with all the fashion people.
Yeah. Respect. So we give a little shout out to Mr. Armani. Thank you for everything you've done for this world. And I guess I just also want to start quickly by talking a little bit about me. I mean, for you guys who don't know me, my name's Greg Chan. I've been an agent for many, many years. I've been director at ING, Wilhelmina, DNA, and now I'm focused on two things, which is Ask a Model Agent, my model mentor project, and then the Supermodel Project, which is my nonprofit that I share with Chuck Mishak. And she is hiding over here. Yeah. Sorry, Chuck. And we have created this because our core mission is to support models' mental health. I've been an agent for many years. There's so many great fucking agents out there, but many times we forget, because we're so focused on the job, we forget how we have the ability to make such a great impact on our models, such an extraordinary impact. If we took all these great agents and injected just the smallest bit of love, it's like you could really change the way a model performs and everything. So I think a lot about this now as I've stepped back, as we've gotten through a fucking world plague, and I realize it's like we can help models, make models better. All right, we can take care of them, help them feel supported. We can have conversations, and all these things are things that we're doing with the Supermodel Project. We teach models how to give back. We have Model Beach cleanups. We did a big event with the United Nations this year. We're doing one with the Billion Oyster Project. We're feeding homeless people on every Saturday. It's like we're really helping models discover they have more value than just their looks. All right, so this is all part of what we're doing. After Fashion Week, I mean, just this is unheard of. We're gonna have 10 days of smothering you guys with love. It's like, we're having massages and facials and free dinners and yoga classes and free digitals and all these things. And I want you guys to know that we care. And But after Fashion Week, we're gonna be rolling out like gnarly shit. We're gonna be like, we're gonna be rolling out like free boxing classes. We're gonna teach models about food education, financial literacy, health insurance. We've got like model Kieran, the young Kier here, who's gonna be teaching models self-defense, right? She's comes from a family of karate sensei, so she's like the real deal. And maybe we should have Betty do that too, actually. Betty knows some tricks too. So we really are going to roll out amazing, incredible things. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing. And if you're interested, just find us on the website and join. We have joint groups where you can be invited to our events and stuff like that. We really want to make an impact, and I just think it's a great space. We have so many incredible models that are coming for top names, some that are here, and that are going to be doing a bit, really contributing and helping people talk. But I also just wanted to say that even though like this was something that Chuck and I started early, people are stepping forward from all over to say we want to be part of this movement too. We want to be part of this energy too. And that's part of the reasons why I wanted Betty Z to come here, and because Betty is not only someone that I've known for so long, but she understands the landscape so well. She understands models so well. She understands people so well. And the great thing about Betty is like a lot of you guys, it's crazy being in front of you guys to see all these people that came out to hear us speak. And even me, everyone's come out to say hi to me because I'm shocked by like this kind of like love, support, everything. The thing is, as great as a nation as I was, my heyday, it's like I'm a different person than I was back then. And part of me was figuring out who I really was and how I wanted to show up to the universe. Not just as a great agent or someone that makes a kill, but someone that actually has a lot to give, and I can give a lot. And so at the early stages when I started themotheragents.com, like it was Betty, because they were looking at what I was doing, they were thinking about writing an article, and I wanted to just to be about the work, not about me. So I just wanted them to publish it, say this is a great thing happening, and congratulations. But she didn't let me. And she called me up and she said, me and some other Michelle Lee, a top casting director, one of the best in the business, we're talking, and Asians need to step up because there's too many Asians that are so achieved, but they're quiet, they're humble, they never take the credit, they never step in the limelight. And Betty said, you've got to step up, and more Asians need to step up. You need to step up, Greg. And if you don't step up, we're not going to publish the article. So she got me. And part of that, stepping in the limelight, was helping how I found my voice. And when I finally, because I always have a lot to say, but when I started really talking, just because I wanted to talk truth, just because I wanted to talk from my heart, when I really started talking, that's when everyone came aboard, everyone started listening. So that is all really came down to Betty. So she's a very, very important part of my life and my growth as a brand. Okay. So, it's just such an honor for me to have Betty here to talk to you guys because she has so much wisdom, and you're going to find out some things that you didn't know about her tonight. So let's get started. So anyway, everyone give a round of applause to Betty Z. All right, so Betty, let's start. All right, let's get started. So I guess a lot of these kids are young. What year did you start Models.com?
I didn't start it, but my boss started in December of 1999, so basically in 2000. I joined in June of 2000, so before most of you were born. So I'm not an official founder, but basically.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows you as a founder, whether you are officially or not, everyone knows because you've been there since the beginning. 2000. Yeah. And let me tell you, every single model event across town, every single one, Betty was there on the ground taking pictures of all the players, knowing who people were, connecting with people. But the big question is not when, but why? Why was Models.com founded?
Why?
Yeah.
I think, the founders of it, Stefan and Wayne, they actually had a nightlife site, and they were just like kind of kids in New York, and they realized like there was Wayne was actually a stylist,
That's right.
right, for a magazine, and he had connections with the agencies, and they thought like, let's do this. We had a lot of people come up to us like, oh my God, you have the URL models.com, and it's like, yes, he actually got it in the mid '90s, so that was very valuable, and so I think it was just a need. And then a lot of people don't know, but I actually was an agent myself, which is how I know Greg. And Greg is a killer. He was and is a killer agent back then. I was a little scared of him, honestly. But so I was an agent, and really I loved being an agent, but I felt like it was time to move on to the next chapter, and it was that kind of thing, that weird thing of a friend, knew someone who had models.com, and I was like, oh, kind of related. And I was actually at Maryland, New York. They're really, really hot in the late '90s. And they walked in, and Stefan still says I was like, who are these people? I come from the business, like a real, and like, who are these shady motherfuckers? No, they weren't at all. But I met them, realized they were legit, and they had a lot of great ideas, and very creative. And I was like, what, it's time. So I joined this little startup. It was really just like 3 or 4 of us, back then. And, I love Marilyn to death. And she understood, everyone has their time of, every relationship, it must come to an end, the healthy ones, the healthy ones. So.
And let me tell you, when she says she works at Maryland, a lot of you guys know the agency Maryland, New York here, and Maryland, Paris. But let me tell you, this was old school Maryland. So this was Maryland. It's named Maryland because it was a woman named Marilyn Gauthier who was fucking high priestess, and she was a queen. And this woman was plump, and she was friendly, and she had so much energy. She walked in the room, everyone turned.
Oh my God, everyone loved
incredible eye,
yeah.
Incredible nurturing spirit, incredible legend.
Yeah.
So that was a major agency.
She were at the time, I think in the '90s, like she really started doing the whole like celebrity thing. Like she had Kate Moss and Helena Christensen, but like also like Evander Holyfield, So she was like, she really was one of the like kind of like mashing of like model/celebrity back then. She was amazing.
Yeah, and so like, let me ask you. I'm curious to know maybe some of these I don't know. I guess some of the early conversations in the startup of models.com, like what was on your mind about models? What was it? What was like? What do we want to talk about? What issues are we confronting? Is there anything that was really just like things that were the early conversations or early themes, or was it just because like no one was covering models?
I just did a written interview, and this was, first of all, I came on and a lot of the agents knew me from being an agent. Like I would call Italy, I would call, Marzia from Why Not, and so a lot of people I still haven't met. It's still like, only on the phone or via email. But, I really brought an agent's eye to the business. Like I was the one who started Model of the Week. Because, being an agent, we know how important it is to see the model, just like you are now. That's really your natural beauty, just the blank canvas of like just your pure essence. Not heavy makeup, not crazy clothes, and I did that little feature, and that's that was back in 2000. I would take the Polaroids myself.
Yeah. That's right.
And my coworker Wayne, he really had the stylist eye, and he would do kind of like seeing who was. You really have to know the business, and I brought that whole kind of. I was educated in the old school of like, Italian Vogue, shot, cover by myself, that like made you. The landscape has really changed nowadays, and Steven is not shooting Italian Vogue anymore, but back then it was like so special to get that cover. It's still special, but when it's the same person having a consistent vision over decades, and then of course all of the clients, and clients come and go. Because I think about clients that were really big back then, who are just not as, well known now. And it's just funny because like Isaac Mizrahi was he was the hottest, as some of you might know him from, the show he was on. Unzipped.
Unzipped.
Yeah, he did a documentary. But if you're really into fashion and modeling, like there's so much. I mean, it's changing so quickly now, but it's really like amazing. Like you should find stuff online, look at old documentaries, you know. And so we still focused on what we focus now, like the core, the people behind. So it's like the designers, the stylists became really important, you know, and creative directors. People don't understand how important creative directors are, you know.
Yes.
And so, you know, even though our URL is models and, you know, you're the face of it, it takes a whole team, as we know, and we really wanted to acknowledge that. And for those of you who follow our site, you know, we really do a lot of interviews. And, you know, the business-wise, we always joke, like, you know, once you're in it, it's really hard to leave. You know, it's like such an interesting, fascinating business. We have so many, like, models who turn into agents, models who turn into stylists, you know, models who turn into, you know, I'm trying to think, I guess agents and stylists is the most common, you know. Oh, photographers too, of course. We have Ethan James Green. Ethan, he was on our top 50, it's so funny. And then, I mean, one of the biggest, I think, model, he was like #1. Back then we used to number the top 50, you know, but we realized that wasn't fair. What makes one #2 versus #3, so we just have it alphabetical now. But Travis Kimmel was our #1 male model, and a lot of you know him from the Vikings, you know, or in Dune, and he's this like scruffy like guy, but back then he was the Calvin Klein model. It's just funny, I show people what Travis looked like. He was pretty boy with the abs and the long hair, very Brad Pitt like, but like now he just like, and it's funny because a lot of male models will go, I don't want to be known as, you know, male model, but you know, being a model really makes you comfortable in front of the camera and talking to people, because think of how many different people you meet, and you're thrown in every situation. So whether you continue on the modeling journey or start acting, or, you know, I see a lot of successful models like Steve Gold, you know, he's a really successful real estate agent now. Like he's like, I think he has a show or something. You know, but it really gives you so many valuable tools being able to be in front of kind of any situation.
Yeah, and let me tell you, during those years when it was Model of the Week and Top 50, let me tell you, the game that was played kissing their asses because everyone wanted their models higher. Like, what do you mean she's only 5? She should be 4, #4, everything. And we'd be begging them, like, this is the best model of the week. You've got to put them as model of the week. So it was a fucking fight from all agents. And like, I mean, the U.S. must have been living the dream because everyone was kissing your ass. It was like, it was a battle, you know, for agents.
I can just speak for myself. I actually, you know, this person handled the women's side and I handled the men's side. But, you know, none of you really know me, but I have a real sense of justice. And having been an agent and seeing how hard it is to be a model and how inhumanely models are treated, you know, I realized how important it was, and it wasn't a throwaway thing like, oh yeah, there's so much thought being put into the rankings. And now, and before that we only had, you know, kind of like one person deciding each ranking. Now we have a board. So for every person that goes in the ranking, it's not just one person. Like we have to actually all agree to put the person in the ranking. So it's not, it might seem like, oh, your favorite or you know this agent, but you know, just to be honest, we're not allowed to receive any gifts, you know, like at all. I can get flowers and like food and that's it, but nothing. Like someone tried to give me a Louis Vuitton scarf as a thank you and I'm like, no. You know, like they're like, oh, donate. I'm like, no, I had to like, she was like, really? You know,
Wow.
But it's like not allowed, you know. It's really important for you to realize that it's to the best of our ability. It's as fair as possible. We try to make it. So, kissing your ass, everyone's nice to us, but like there was no like kind of, you know, it's just.
I mean, I know that I fought hard to get Betty's favor, that's for sure. I was trying to get, like, I was constantly calling her.
Well,
say,
what's funny is like, you know, what makes a great agent is like, he wasn't always calling me. So when an agent would call, because you know, you get the agent that send like, you know, 20 people a week, and it's like, ah. But like when someone's like, really, you know, this person really has something special, you know. But it's like, you know, you have to understand, we're not in contact with agents only in New York. I only see most of the agents in New York because I don't travel outside, but I'm in email contact with like people around the world. Like if you have like a big agent in another city, I know them, you know, I know them. And so a lot of you might say like, oh, I saw Betty, and they'll be like, really? What does she look like? 'Cause I don't like to be in the limelight. And I just want to tell a funny story for all of you who are a little bit shy. I'm actually really shy and introverted. Like, before Maryland, I was with a small agency called Company, and it was a really cool agency in the early 90s. And they were probably even more originally like the kind of,
They're notorious.
well, yeah, well, I didn't know that. But like in terms of like I was trained under Michael, and he really taught me like to have that eye of, seeing not just the beautiful face, but the quirkiness, and yeah, the essence. And like he would rep models that were really short, but had Jamie Richard had like 2 Italian Vogue covers by Mizell. But I was brought to a model convention, and they gave me the questions beforehand. And it was, for those of you old enough to remember, there was a TV show called The Brady Bunch, and there was an episode where Jan, the eldest daughter, she was on TV, and she was like, okay, these are the questions. She said, yeah, no problem, I got it, right? And once the camera turned on, she was like she saw the red light. That was me at this convention. I knew the question beforehand. I was like, So I've come a long way. This was like 30 years ago, but I think like, I just, anything like practice, and if you fail, so what? It really doesn't matter. Nowadays, like you're so lucky, all of you, because you're growing up in the age of social media where, like my daughter doesn't post at all. She hates it when I take pictures of her. But a lot of you are in this business because you're comfortable with the camera. So it's really good to, speak your voice. It's important. Don't hold it in. Share if you're feeling under stress. And that's something why I'm really supportive of the mental health aspect of it, because I see kind of how the industry is, like more and more. I mean, with this talk of AI, oh, the regular model's gonna be decimated. Like, that is like heartbreaking to me. These are real humans behind, the thing about the Skechers, my daughter was telling me about how like there's this big like kerfuffle, I think, about how it's like a completely AI like generated campaign, and it's like, come on, like we have these beautiful faces. Why do we need fucking AI? Sorry. There's gonna be some useful parts of AI, but us old school people are really trying to find like, like maybe like taking the terrible parts of the modeling out, but like, the human parts of it, like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look deep.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I think one thing we all often forget about, because it's such a business, is that we also tend to forget that the base of what we do in fashion and modeling, it's actually all based on inspiration. All right. So we put the robots in, we lose the idea of inspiration, connection with a person that makes you feel better about yourself, someone that excites and brings presence. In the end, it's like going back to when me trying to beg for Betty's like favor. It's like she also is smart to discern when I really believe in someone, because belief changes everything with a model. If an agent believes you, it changes everything. All right. An agent can change everything. So it really starts with that. So, part of it is her trust in her to discern and say, you know what? I see Greg really believes in this person. I can feel it, so I'm going to listen to him,
Yeah, I think that can't be expressed enough. Like, I came from 2 smallish agencies, and I see it all. I mean, I've seen every model leave, like agencies, and, it's like the lure, oh, my friend's at this agency, but I would rather a model stay at a smaller agency with someone who really believes in them than for them to leave for a big name agency. Like my sister turned down a college at a bigger school because she knows she would just get lost. And she stayed at a small liberal arts college. She was so happy, and she was really supported. So I think like, it's tempting, and everyone has their own journey. But if someone really, really believes in you, and I see this a lot, like a lot of like models, like this agent like busts their ass to make you, and then the bigger agent comes on like, oh, would you like to? And it's like, they don't usually Carly Kloss, she's the only one I've seen go from agency to agency, and really like climb. But she's an exceptional talent. She's a kind of once in a generation model. You know what I mean? She just has the whole package. But like most of all, it's like, be with someone who believes in you, because then that gives you confidence to believe in yourself.
And that's the thing, because these agencies that Betty talks about, yeah, she describes them as small boutique agencies, but these were boutique agencies that were powerful. They had presence, they had personality. Marilyn Gauthier, Company was the agency that I always wanted to be with. I interviewed with them a ton of times. They didn't want to hire me, but there was something interesting. It was always kind of something they would talk like in the sort of like in the whispers and everything. But Betty probably knows more than me. But all their agents seemed like they had big personalities, big presences. I heard that Michael Fooley loved loud agents and everything. They were young,
I don't know
loud.
why they hired me. I started as a receptionist in the business in 1992. I literally was at my desk, like organizing papers. So, here I am, like, I can't believe it's like 33 years later, So, if you really believe in yourself and just trust and do the work, that's the thing. You really have to, sometimes the older people complain about this young generation of like, oh, they don't want to do the work. They just leave at 6. I don't know. Is it raining?
Well, that was good.
Wow. So I really think it's amazing that the young people have a good boundaries. So, maybe not leave at 9 and maybe not leave at 6, but maybe 6:30. You know what I mean? 7. Like, you need to keep your mental health, but you still have to get the work done. And now with cell phones, I mean, Greg and I can tell you about the days of pre-cell phone where we'd be like, where's the fucking model? It's like, where is she? But now we can reach you right away, or like paging. We had to page models, to call us. Like, it's like, you don't understand. Like, now, like, we used to have to, like, you had to call us for your booking. You had to write it down. I mean, you don't understand. It's like, it's so much easier for all of you nowadays, But I don't know. This is my ADHD. Like, I just lose my train of thought. So please excuse me.
Well, again, going back to the models. I mean, Company, they had models as well with great presence. Like the Jamie Richard, Jimmy King, Rachel Williams, Barry Smither, great models. Oh my God, extraordinary presence, and they really were big forces in this business. So again, I want you guys to think back to that word inspiration. How can you not just be pretty and be in shape and do everything right, but be powerful? Because again, that's going to make the biggest difference. So I kind of want to
I just want to say they were Connie and Zaldi. Those of you who know Connie and Zaldi back then. And I'll tell you a quick story. Do you know who Sean Ross is?
Yes.
Yeah. So Sean came to me and he was like, I want to be a model, and he has that really strong bump. And this was like in the mid-zeros. I was like, wow, it's going to be really hard. I was honest with him, because back then the industry was very different from how it is now. He's a black albino model with an imperfect feature. I was like, it's going to be hard. But, I loved it that I don't say prove me wrong, but it's just like, it didn't matter. He didn't let me stop. It didn't let because I was just honest with that side of business, you know what I mean? And he just, he was on American Horror Story, he does his own thing, and so it's like, really how much you want it. So, it's like, even if like, I don't know, the classic case of Cindy Crawford, like she was turned down by like 10 agencies before she was finally taken by an agency. I mean, that's just kind of crazy, right? So if you really want to dream, some way you can succeed. A lot of people want to be in front of the camera, but there's a huge industry behind the camera, which you'll last much longer, honestly. So that's my thing.
And also, Sean, I mean, he really paved the path, because look, he opened the gateway to so many albino models, all the careers of these albino models are because of Sean Ross. Mm-hmm. Incredible. Okay, cool. So let's turn and talk a little bit about the landscape of models today. It's a harder place to be. There's more models than ever. There's too many models. There's not enough work. we're about to be replaced by robots. It's like, agents are talking less to the models because they're all about booking jobs to save to pay for their salaries. This is all happening. It's making it harder and harder and harder. So many models are not getting signed, and getting signed to an agency doesn't mean you're going to work anymore. It's a big, big change. So let's kind of like talk a little bit about that and everything. Like, what's a model supposed to do?
Well, I really think there's less and less. Everyone knows Raquel Zimmerman, people like Mika Argonaras, Mika from, right. So, who else? I think like the old school models where you just like, Julia Nobis, they have no, but they're very like, just in front of the camera and great personalities, but like, they're not interested, right? They're not interested in anything except doing the work, which is fine. But I think there's going to be fewer and fewer of those because I think even a couple years ago, I was looking at our breakout models from 10 years ago, models who were doing really well, and it's like, where are they? They did so well at the time. I think that you really have to be your own, like Greg said, be your own brand, and you have to have a social media presence. And it's getting harder and harder, and it's, I don't know. It's hard, it's really hard. I think you need to have something on the back end. I always tell people the reason I lasted so long in the business, honestly, because some of you great agents drove me nuts.
Yeah, Betty always tells me that I was arrogant, right? I was cocky.
He was really cocky. I was like, who's this cocky Asian guy? Like, I'm not used to that. I wasn't, But the only reason I lasted is because I actually do martial arts. Yeah, since 1997. So, I would like to get like, as an agent, I would like kind of do the work and and then go down to my martial arts and then stay. When I went to models.com, I would deal with the agents, everyone would, oh, why my model? And then go down to, you need to have something to like let off steam. I don't care if it's yoga, I don't care if it's martial arts or like kickboxing, but you need to have something else. You have to have the balance. And I think that's what's nice about a lot of young people. You gotta have music, you gotta painting, you have to explore that creative side of you. And you also have to give back to the community. Because what I did was I actually taught classes at my school. So I actually taught the adults, I taught the kids, and not for pay, but just as part of one of the black belts. So you need to have that.
Black belt.
But so you need to have something that like sustains you when days are hard. Because there are many days when you won't get a single casting, you know what I mean? And you'll be up for a big job and then you'll freaking lose it to someone that you're like, really? And that's the thing. You need to realize like you have to be your own brand, but you have to have a kind of backup plan, and I don't know what to say about nowadays. It's, people always talk about, people look at the rankings, right? So everyone knows the rankings, the hot list, the top 50. We used to have let's give people like a couple, because I know how hard it is to be a model, being an agent, and I know how hard it is to be an agent, like having the models, like why, let me tell you this is what it's like. The agent, I'm the agent, right? The client, I want to give you $1,000 for worldwide, and the model's like, where are all my castings? So, I also have a lot of compassion for agents because they're squeezed on both ends too. And they're juggling all these models, and the clients a lot of times are like, oh, we want, this top model for $200. So it is not hard to be an agent either. So I want you to really take care of your agents, the ones who work hard for you. I know a model who their agent got, I love telling the story, their agent got them $1 million CoverGirl contract, and she showed up with a gift at Christmas, and the agent looked in, and it was just scented wood chips. Yeah, no, it was crazy. So, and she was like digging for the gift, and she realized that wood chips were the gift. So it's like, take care. And then I have I heard of another model who got all her agents iPads. Every, like, 25 agents an iPad. So it's like you can be in between both, right? It's just the expression and like love and care. A thank you card. I've gotten 3 thank you cards in my entire life at mall.com. Please don't send me thank you cards. But my point is, I had done a little like, like digital, like, oh, model of the week or whatever, and they thanked me, and I was like, oh, and so it's kind of like, this is like lessons you can bring to your own life. I have a daughter who's 19, and like I spent money on her glasses today. I'm like, thank you, And it's like, just showing appreciation for the people that love you, your parents, because they're not going to be around. I'm going to be honest. My parents are gone. It's very sad, and it's like a thank you, or even flowers, a little chocolate, donuts, It's like, and you know what? Agents are humans. And the agents remember the models who do a little extra thing, even just a thank you, like a hug, And there is a little bit of a sense of entitlement with some of the young people nowadays, like, oh, I deserve this. It's like, it's a fine balance, right? You gotta be appreciative, but you also have to be, have gratitude because, with what's going on in the world right now, with the war, I met a model whose whole family's in Ukraine, and it's like, you gotta be grateful. You have your body, you have your health, you have your, physical health and your mental health. So, it's like really, it's like, I'm grateful. I'm happy it's even raining, right? So.
And as we kind of sort of turn the corner towards the end of our interview, let's continue to talk about that, have that conversation, continue to emphasize the conversation of mental health for models, because that's really in the end of why we're here. We're to help elevate it. So maybe just kind of talk about how to search for help, how to look for things that you connect with, what any kind of tips you might think of as far as taking care, finding self-care as a talent who, and you guys know, I think you guys know, it can be a very lonely process of being a talent, because you're wondering whether your agent is thinking about you. You're wondering if anyone's putting you up for jobs. You're wondering if anyone's looking at the submission you did on your own. And it's very hard. So it's a very lonely process. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I dealt with the men's side, so I want to actually address all the men in the room right now. First, because there's a lot of focus on the women, which is incredibly important. But I think women actually have a languaging around their feelings and, being kind of something is uncomfortable. And, the society supports right now, especially after Me Too, you should speak up, And there's a lot of people that did really, really bad things that, are no longer working because women spoke up. So for the men, though, I've actually, I was talked to about a photographer, and it's not just male photographers, but female photographers who have been extremely physically inappropriate with men, to the point where it was like full-on sexual harassment, So it's like men, meanwhile, I actually had to talk to a lot of them on the phone. They didn't want their names used. They didn't want any mention. And, and they were really scarred and traumatized. So I really encourage men. I think there's a real, openness to men's mental health, talking about it. So guys, talk about it with someone. I highly recommend therapy if you don't feel comfortable talking to your friends, But I think there's a vulnerability I see in this generation, which I think is really lovely. There's I see guys hugging each other, but not in just a, oh bro way, but really I love you, So I think it's really important to talk about it. So for mental health, I think it's actually probably the best it's been in ages, because there's starting to be a conversation about it, right? And we have a lot of models I had a model who was so successful in the middle of the week. So Fashion Week, let's say, was Thursday through, back then it was Monday through Friday. So on a Wednesday, she called me. She's like, I can't do this anymore. And she canceled $50,000 worth of jobs She's like, I can't. And I'm like, I rode to the airport. Like, are you sure? Can we do anything? She's like, I just can't. So, I mean, she prioritized her mental health. She was breaking down. So I really admire her for that. Like, not many people walk away from 50,000, and she tried to come back, and of course, her momentum was gone. But, that's just, better for her. She had to do what she had to do. So I think that it's very important to really know yourself. And you don't know yourself until you actually write in journals, talk to a therapist, instead of like just shoving everything. I'm fine. Or, oh my God, I'm gonna break down. But are you really, so you really have to know thyself. Who was that? Socrates?
Yeah, one of those guys.
I think, know thyself, and don't expect your partner, your best friend to know you, because no one knows you like you, so, yeah.
Yeah, defend you. Be brave enough to stand behind you, because not everyone's going to look after you. You have to understand how you want to show up every day. And then also, like I said, I recommend people just try to find things to be part of. Volunteer with us. I see all you guys talking to each other tonight, which is amazing. Make connections. Where have people to bounce notes off of. Say, hey, did you feel weird at this casting too? Whatever. Because people are. I always say people in this business aren't required to give a shit, and I'm sorry to say that, everything, but they're not, because they're focused on their job. So you've got to be there to make sure you protect yourself and your mental health. It's so important. But we're going to have a lot of conversation on this. But Betty, this is awesome. I mean, I love everything you've said, and I'm so glad you're able to share with all these people. So I guess we're going to go into some questions from the crowd and everything, and see if anyone has any questions. Brianna, are you here still? Brianna? Anyone? All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pass it. Oh, Anna's here. Anna, can you come over here, please? And maybe, Elizabeth.
I also want to say, I think it's okay to take time off, 6 months,
So maybe just like
regroup.
raise your hand.
Right?
All right. So questions.
Pass it to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you guys doing? My name is Isabella. Nice to meet you. I really appreciate you taking the time and putting this all together and speaking so much about mental health, especially in our industry. I'm really big when it comes to mental health, especially speaking on injustice in the industry. Those models that know me here, I speak highly on those creeps that like to hide in the industry, and I love to call them out because it needs to be a safe space for us as well. But my question for you is, being that you're in models.com, I know for models to be a part of it, they have to be signed by an agency, do CFDA shows. How does that work to be in models.com?
So when we started the database, which is what everyone is talking about, it's like IMDb, we're not a big company. People think we're giant, but I think around 20 people. So we don't have a large team. There's so much great work, but in terms of it used to be in the past, you could do like 1 or 2 jobs and you could be on the site. But now we have our criteria and you can go onto the site and look. And it can't be just smaller magazines. It has to be established brands, because otherwise it becomes unmanageable. One day if we're
Inspiring.
right. So we still have to hold up, it's like a certain level. Yeah, of, it's like if I had, I don't want to, like a Florida mall, like nothing is Florida. Well, now that they took vaccines away, I'm a little bit annoyed at them. But like a Florida mall, like, picture, I'm not going to put that on models.com, you know what I mean? And so, you have to understand that you don't want it on there either. You only want the best. We do allow like a model who's walked like, Dior, any Prada, any brand designer who gives exclusives, it shows that they have a kind of, they really believe in this model. And so we allow that, like when it's at the high end, and they're like, great brands, but they don't give exclusives, so we kind of focus on those. So, but otherwise, like, yeah, you only want the best, and not with like test shoot, test shoot, test shoot. You want like, working with LUSA, working with American Vogue, that level.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I really liked the speech. It was very nice. Talking about models.com, I had like an interview when I was 18. I did like Rookie of the Week, New Face of the Week. And it was so fun to do that. But as I'm working as a model and developing myself, I would like to ask you like my biggest doubt, when I go to a casting, that is how can I stand out as a model doing the casting, because when we go there, like, everyone has the right measurements, their skin is good, like, they know what they're looking for, but there are a lot of girls, especially now during Fashion Week, like, we're doing the castings, there are so many models, and all I ever ask myself is, how can I stand out and get the show,
Right. I think that I would have to give a different answer to all of you because you're all individuals. But I think the basic would be to work on your style. You know what I mean? Like, I know everyone says, oh, the normal, like, black top and, it's like you want a blank canvas, but put a little twist on it. You know what I mean? And, you see our street style, our images of street style. And the newer models you can see are more like, just a simple top and a simple pants. But as you get more comfortable, you see what really works for you. And some models really flourish, like the old school models were high heels and like big, whatever. But the newer models are comfortable in sneakers, the new models. So you really have to find out what works for you, what makes you confident. You know what I mean? Don't be someone that you're not, and also practice. It's hard, it took me so long. I'm still not comfortable when I talk in situations like a lot of times at parties, I just go into the corner and talk to the one person I know. But, you're selling yourself. So you have to, be very friendly. And so you have to practice, practice with your friends, practice like when you go to the deli, practice when you go to the supermarket, and just being really friendly, because at the end of the day, clients want to work with people that they want to be on set with. You know what I mean? And like, Arlenis Sosa from Dominican Republic. She didn't speak a lick of English when she got to New York, right? But she was like, hi, and like Michael Kors fell in love with her because she had this like life energy, life force, And so the English being great, you don't have to. Luann's English is not, like finally it's getting better, but it's just like you have to like really just want to be there, but also not too overeager. You know what I mean? So it's that thing, right? So, but you have to find what works for you. Some people are really great at being friendly. Some people are like just cool. You know what I mean? So you gotta play with yourself, like what works for you and what works for the client. Because some client, like they're too busy. You might have to like stand out. But some people who are like, it really depends on every situation. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How y'all feeling? My name is Valente Fanning. I'm a mother agent and runway coach based here in New York. And can we just get a round of applause to Greg and Betty for this amazing event? This is phenomenal. I remember seeing Greg put this all together in the beginning, and to see this grow is just a phenomenal thing. And also just the power of manifestation. To answer the girl's question earlier, like Betty said, it starts within, okay? Because that's why I teach development, and I do runway coaching. So if any of you are preparing for Fashion Week, get at me. I do runway coaching, I do groups and individuals. But my question to you, Betty, why did y'all take down the agency show package feature? When I tell you that was one of my favorite features, what happened to it?
We found that a lot of agencies were not using it. So, because pre-internet days, even recently, show packages, right? We would get them in the mail. They'd be like these fantastic presentations, but honestly, do we really want to keep killing the earth? You know what I mean? So we stopped doing that. And actually, it's better for you because less of a cost for you, like to have so many paper cards. You know, we used to send thousands of paper cards to clients, you know. So once we stopped doing that and then the digital cards, but we realized that a lot of agents were actually emailing it directly to the clients. So it stopped, it was just one, we want to really streamline of what everyone is looking at, and we know, you know, we can see behind, like, well, people are starting to use the agency packages less and less. Yeah.
My next question is for Greg, actually. Okay, so not only does Greg does the Supermodel Project, guys, but he also has the Mother Agents that features my agency. So whenever, for those that's looking for a Mother Agent, check out the Mother Agents. You'll see me on there. Check me out. But my question, Mr. Greg, if you don't mind explaining, because I've been networking and speaking to a plethora of people here, and they don't understand the difference between a mother agency and a booking agency. Can you please explain the difference and why a mother agent is very beneficial for their career?
Yeah, so I mean, really, like, you know, www.management.com. Okay, so yeah, I'm very pro mother agent, because the thing is, a mother agent is going to give, not as many agents have time to talk and guide you anymore. So that's why a lot of mother agents are trending right now, because they're the people that are going to help fill in a lot of the gaps. You know, how to develop you in the right way, how to, like, what are the right agencies for you, using their connections to say, hey, we're going to send you to Mexico City now, but this is the agency for you, not these two. You know, helping you understand the landscape, so you can so basically you can just focus on being a great model. Everything it takes that, and also a mother agent is there to protect the model. Okay, and this is one thing that Valente has told me a lot of times. He doesn't give a shit. Like, he doesn't care if he pisses off a big agent, because he's there to defend his model. He's there to protect his model. And that is what a really great mother agent does, to say, no, actually, this is not right in the contract. Or no, actually, this is not enough for my model, because, you know, he's used to making this amount. So it's like having that person in your corner to defend you and to be your biggest fan. It's really important to have the manager that can do that, can develop you, can talk to you. And there's a bunch of mother agents here in this crowd and everything. And this is all important because, and it's great because many people have their agency, their booking agency, who books them jobs. A mother agency doesn't necessarily book jobs. They're more of a managing, scouting, placement management. Some other agents book on a smaller level, but then you pass it on to the larger booking agency, which books the majority of the stuff. And it's okay to have your mother agent, your booking agency by your mother agent, because they can be very powerful. Because if you have a New York agency that's very powerful, they have leverage to make sure that everyone stands in line. You know, if someone says, if you have, say for example, you have an option through London for a Dior fragrance, and Paris comes in and says, well, that's actually ours because we also submitted that model and we are French, you know, and then the mother agent steps in, where's the client from? Where's the casting director from? Where's it going to be shot? Ask all the questions, and then what they say is, and they're like, okay, well, you know, it is a French company, but it's going to be shot in London. The agency's in London, the casting director's in London, and you know what? The model's going to make more money because you lose 70% fucking taxes in France. So they're going to say it's going through London. They protect the model, all right? So that's really the big difference. And as much as the booking agency is amazing to also be your mother agent, I was a great mother agent as mother agent, but at the same time, you have to be careful because when it comes down to choosing the benefit of the agency or the model, they will choose the agency because the agency pays their salary. Sorry, did I say too much?
I do want to say something. Watch out for scams. You know, I think all of you probably with someone already, but someone emailed us that someone was pretending to be from us, asking for money. So you gotta be careful about people asking for money. You know, like say, oh, I'm a mother agent. Oh, will you buy class? You know, it's you gotta be careful. You gotta really like do your due diligence. You know, look on our site. You know, and if something is shady, email us. You know what I mean? So, and we'll take into consideration, well, usually we do a lot of research and make sure everyone who's on our site is like recommended by other big agencies. So,
My question is not so directed towards a specific career. My name is Kate Murray, by the way. And because I'm so interested in a lot of different things at once, I'm very confident about what I have to say, and I feel like me too. I just always have something to say. My question is, how do you find someone to listen to you without sounding self-absorbed or without begging them, forcing them, and to make you really believe what you're saying? What are some tricks that can help people trust that what you're saying is very honest and true to themselves, if that makes sense?
how old are you?
I'm 19.
Oh, you're same age as my daughter. She's at college, and I never did the friend finder thing when she was in New York. But now that she's in California school, I'm like looking at her, and I'm like, oh my God, why is she in on a Saturday night in her dorm? She's gaming. You know what I mean? So the thing is, you have to go out. She's actually found a really great gaming community, and she's become really friends. She meets in IRL, but you have to put yourself out there. So you can't, if you want to meet people, you can't stay in your small community. You have to kind of do things. The best is to do something that you like. I found people through my martial arts. I found people through my CrossFit, yoga thing. But also you have to it's like a relationship, right? You can't just always, I'm not saying you, but someone can't always be dumping on the other person. You have to, it's like a give and take. You know what I mean? So you want them to listen to you, well, you got to listen to them too, like authentically. So, and if you haven't found, like, she didn't have that many friends. It was a freshman year. She's not super social, but I heard, like, I didn't have that many friends either in college, but, like, I think, you join some clubs in college and you really, like, put yourself out there doing things that you love, and then you'll meet your people, or your tribe, as they say. So, and that's how you find, like, I think people that you feel so comfortable with. Does that help?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Greg and Betsy, for putting this gathering together. It's very nurturing and inspiring. My name is Adesola Adeyemi, and I am a model and also just recently became a certified life coach. And I run a platform, and I'm currently building a platform called Styling the Mind, which came up from me being an advocate for mental health and the mind. And the word styling the mind came from me thinking, how do we mirror the approach we put in our physical appearance, like the conscious approach we put on our physical appearance, into our mind? And that's how I coined the word styling the mind. So that's what I'm currently doing, apart from modeling. And my question is, I would love to hear your perspective on how models can navigate speaking up in the industry, especially when there's a fear of being cancelled or losing opportunities. As I've found myself in this journey and realized that I actually have so much passion and love for my career and modeling itself, but I am quite critical about the industry, about the system. And so I'm using this opportunity to ask, what advice would you give, particularly to immigrant models, on finding their voice while still protecting their careers?
That's a good one.
Are you on me?
That is such an important question. That is such an important question that you're asking, because it's not easy. You've got to finesse it. Like, for example, like I have some of my clients that I consult with everything. I tell them exactly how to speak to their agent, because I know how to get what you want out of your agent. I know exactly. I knew how. I could see the models that didn't connect with me as an agent, and the models that actually understood how to get me and get me out. And I would always be super protective, like I'm a stone wall. But then afterwards, I'd be like, how'd they get that out of me and everything, all that love out of me? Then I'm like, nah, that's cool, you know. So we respect that. So that's a it's definitely a important subject, because I also know two models over two top agencies that when they started asking questions about, well, hey, you know, what's going on? Why am I working? They were dropped like a week later. And that's very hard, because we are trying to empower you, the models, to be able to speak about what they need. Just like I'm learning by just being in front of you how to speak, say what I feel. I didn't know how to do that my whole life. I'm learning, I'm getting that knowledge and everything. So we're trying to make more powerful models. But then when an agent says, well, she's too high maintenance, let's just drop her, you know, she's not working, make money, that sucks. So really, it's a finesse game. All right, it really is a finesse game. Again, like I can kind of tell, you know, I can go in a longer, you know, consulting session on how to sort of talk to your agent. But really, at the end of the day, it's like what Betty would say, was listening, making sure you're giving them what you want back. All right. It's also, agents love to be flattered. I'm sorry there too.
Human.
Yeah, we love flattery. Like, oh, you're so talented. Oh my God. It's like, I need your help. I need your guidance. Like, how can you help me? Like, I really am looking to you to like help me with my career and everything. And I'm like, well, you know, I am actually very talented. And so come on over here. Let me guide you to be a star. I'm a sucker for that, you know? And it's like, so again, it's just trying to find those different finesse ways to like, I always use, help that agent, make that agent feel powerful, because a lot of agents are control freaks, everything, they want to be in control. And then you kind of say, and you kind of use them in a different way to be able to say, to get what you need out of them, to make them feel empowered to be that leader, to be your savior, for things. So it's a kind of finesse thing, but it's also just being very like, understanding the you that is non-negotiable, and making sure that you stand by that. I'm not going to be talked like this. I'm not going to be talked to like this. You know, everything. I love you as agents. You guys are fucking amazing and everything, but you can't talk to me like this. I'm one of your talent. You know, I want to make you money. I want to inspire you guys. And that's where you kind of like have to start making sure you use your power as well.
I do want to add that, honestly, it's like a relationship. If you say something and they drop them, they didn't want to be there anyway, you know, because they're not a priority. So I think it always works out. You know, it always works out. Life is, you know, and it sounds so trite when they say, like, nothing is personal. It's not. You know, like, I wish I had learned this lesson a lot earlier. You know, like, if someone rejects you, that's them. You know, there's something better for you around the corner. So, you know, it's, as a child of immigrants, you're here a couple generations.
Yeah, for you, yeah.
Yeah. So my parents came from China. So, you know, I grew up basically, you know, my parents, immigrants, working 18-hour days. And I didn't have a voice for so long. So I encourage you to speak out. You know, like I said, social media, friends, you know, even just like talking. When you say being an immigrant but also afraid, what was the exact question again? So I want to address that.
So I said, what advice would you give, particularly to immigrant models, on finding their voice while still protecting their careers? And the reason why I asked this is because I feel lucky to be with great agencies, and I've moved agencies, and I tend to speak up for myself, to advocate for myself. But I also find that other immigrant models find it really hard to do that, because they would be threatened with their visas and things like that. But the only thing that I feel like that's worked for me, or that's helped me over the many years in this country as a model, is that I just believe that I'm going to go where I'm going to be wanted. And
Yes,
that's just the philosophy I carry. But I do know that there are other models that actually struggle with this, because everybody's personality is quite different.
It is. And that's their own journey, you know? And that's the whole, like, go towards the light, you know what I mean? Like, you found agents that support you in your outspokenness, you know? And if someone is with an agent who is not, then maybe they shouldn't be with them. And, you know, the visa, that really, really sucks. Right now, visas are really hard for, you know, people coming outside of America. And we're just going through a difficult time. And I think that's just something that, it's just practice. Maybe you can work with, you know, coach them, you know?
Yeah. Just coach it down.
Yeah, exactly. So
All right, let's do 2 more questions.
we'll do 1, 2, 3.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Betty. My name is Milo. Milo the only. I'm not just a model. I'm also a producer. I work backstage, and I love just to meet, create, and give love. But as a person now, there's a lot of signed people in this room. Now, I am unsigned. I work in non-exclusive contracts, so I get myself booked while allowing myself to free up from work. Now, I guess like a 2-part question. One, do you find is it possible for a model to continue to be unsigned and make it in the industry by getting themselves bookings? And 2, what is like I guess it depends on your look, which agency you go for. Or is there an agency that usually gets more bookings as an agent? Like, is there one that you worked more with, or is there any hierarchy of agency where all depends on the what they represent and how you look and kind of how that coincides? That makes sense.
I think the example of Sean, he, I think, booked himself, without. I think it's much harder because someone's gonna call Calvin Klein office, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the advent of social media is really great is that you can post something they can see. Like someone I know was posting on Instagram, and this huge pop star's sister stumbled upon his IG and called him to do her music video. And so it's like, it is definitely much more possible nowadays to do things, but it is a hustle, and it's like agents have direct access and you don't know when things are being booked, that's the importance of an agency. And they also filter out, things that are not, and they also make sure you get paid,
No, I'm looking to get booked. I'm like, what about the agent? He was over there. I'm gonna talk to him too. But yeah.
Because, when you're your own thing, and obviously a good client will pay you, we hope, but, like a not so good, or they're struggling with money, they're like, oh, this person's not with an agency, it's fine, I don't pay them, but this agency I have to work with continuously, we have to pay, so it's much harder. It's not impossible. And with social media, it's definitely not. Wisdom just built Wisdom K, the TikTok star, he built his whole brand on just doing his own thing, and KB Lane too, and then big agencies signed them, but they came and built an audience like Alex Consani, and it's just helpful because Alex was already a TikTok star, but her agency, they know who to contact, they know the people.
Yeah.
You're just it's like kind of sending a balloon, or the little bottles with a message and hoping it reaches the client.
Yeah, no,
What
sure.
was the second question?
Yeah, is there any hierarchy of agency, or no? That's just, it
No.
really depends.
Great agents at the smaller agencies, shitty agents at the smaller agencies, great agencies at the big agencies, shitty agents at, they're all, if they're on our site, and especially the premium agencies are, you can tell the ones on top, they have the most ranked model, they have a history, decades of work, but there's some smaller agencies that, we actually the standard agents, they may not have as much ranked models, but they're still great,
I definitely will reply here because I get myself booked, but I definitely want to be on that official, the CTFA. I want to be on those campaigns. I love that. You will see me. You will talk. You will talk. Thank you guys so much. And can we get a round of applause for Greg and Betty?
2 more, 1 and 2. One, and then that guy. Other guy.
Good boss, Beth.
Oh, I thought she was gonna get it. She's been waiting.
I'll be real quick. My name is Pooja Akama. First off, I only met Greg yesterday, and I learned a little bit about this. And so one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about, or ask you questions, is kind of taking it back on mental health and you touched a little bit on the Me Too movement. And what I really want to ask you is maybe what is a jargon, a script that models can use in times when they need to protect themselves when they're on set or working with a client? Because I think a lot of times we find ourselves a little bit uncomfortable with certain situations. We ask our agents, okay, what's the breakdown? They go in, they tell us we're all good. And then we're on set and someone is like, we want you to do this. And you're like, oh shoot. You're at a crossroad where you're like, wait, I don't want to say no, but I'm a little uncomfortable, but I don't want to ruin my career. And I really do want to ask you, what advice would you give? What script can we use? I know there's so many times people are like, just say no, that's a full sentence. I love that, and I use that sometimes, but that's not there's times where it's not the first thing I can say, or it's not something that you just get nervous and you start fighting and you're like, what am I going to do? Am I going to ruin my career?
Well, I'll address, since I did actually, when I rep models, I rep female models, you know, and I think that I'm always an optimist at heart, and I like to think that a lot of those like assholes are gone, but there's always new ones coming. So, you know, we try to stamp it out, you know, like I think they're especially bold because it's like, come on, we have like social media, you can be called out, you know. I think that's why you have an agent, you know, and a lot of times I know it's tough because like you're on set and they're like, oh, can you like lower your shirt, you know, to show more of the nipple or whatever, you know, like, oh, I'm not really comfortable, you know, just, I guess not no, but just like, you know, just like, oh, I'm not really comfortable with that, come on, and you just have to practice, you know, and I think it's, like, I hate to say it, but the agents, when I was an agent, there were people back then that with the very young models, like we would send agents with the models on set, you know. So I think nowadays a lot of those like creeps are gone, but like there were people that were definitely like, let's someone go with her, you know, on set. So that's the amazing thing about agents. But I think, like you said, scripts, you have to find out what works for you, you know, and it can be very like, oh yeah, no, I'm just like so weird about that, I have like a cut here, or sometimes like in martial arts, like oh, this guy is a fucking asshole, and so I'm like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and like, oh, okay, you know, so you gotta self-protection however it is. Sometimes you're like, no, you know, but sometimes like, no, you know, so it's like every situation is so different, but you have to be able to like read the situation, and I think that's the beauty of all of you being in different situations, know like when it's like a no, you know, if you're like by yourself with the person, it's like, no, I really do not like that, you know, oh, come on, and if they're like, I'll never book you again, okay, that's fine, you know, so you have to be willing to walk away from it, really honestly, you know, like there are a lot of guys who, there's this male photographer who like really like preyed on a lot of like people like, which one is she talking about? But it's like, you know, I think really fucked up a lot of male models, you know, and it's like, oh, let me just shimmy this down, and it's like, you know, it's like, nah, you can laugh it off, but everyone's so different, right? So we can't really give you script, you gotta give your own script, you gotta practice it with different. So this young lady's been waiting.
Hi, I'm Sierra. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for being out here. I really like the project, and it's really inspired me just listening to you guys about everything that you have to say. And I just wanted to ask you, Betty, as I know you said you had ADHD and like you're being a shy person growing up, and I definitely feel that like my whole life. And I just wanted to ask like what advice you would give to a model who wants to put themselves out there and really like gain a community, even on social media, and just have that presence to be able to really grow in the modeling world and get their name out there.
And that you're from Minnesota.
Yes, I'm from Minnesota.
Well, you know, I think that, you know, ever since I got diagnosed, which is only like last year, which is crazy, right? So I went like 50-something years of my life, like what the hell's wrong with me?
That's so crazy.
You know, and people are like, oh, I found out so late, I was 30. I was like, girl, try being 56 when I got diagnosed. You know what I mean? So just go on to those YouTube communities, listen to podcasts, and you feel like, oh, I'm not so weird, you know? And if you're open about it too, I see a lot of people really open about their mental health journey. You know, I'm pretty healthy, but last winter I had a really depressive episode. I was going through a really hard time, and like, it was winter, you know, and I wasn't working out, you know, and, you know, I actually took some antidepressant to get me through that, and it's like, and I was always like, no antidepressant, none of that. So that's the thing, it's like, I realized I needed that to get through it, and I realized, oh, I didn't work out at all that week. I was working like crazy. You know what gets you through it. Maybe it's like, you know, crocheting to get your, you know, meditation, you know, and so being open about it, you know, I think vulnerability, you know, making sure you don't hide yourself. Some people do. Like my daughter never posts. She has not a single, zero post on her fucking Instagram. I have to watch her stories to see what she's doing, you know? So, but like, if you're okay with sharing, share, and then you'll find your tribe, as they say, So, and then this guy's been waiting. You're welcome. And then I think that's it.
Hi everyone, my name is Emer Suarez. I'm from Venezuela and I have a question for the beginner models. How they can make his careers become true if they are beginners? Because I have 2.5 years here and thanks God I have multiple agency, but I spent 2 years trying to get signed and I lost so much time and I don't want to people here who don't have agency or don't have representation lose his time, So what's the steps so these beginners models can be actually models or can make it happen?
I mean, here, you speak on it. All right.
It's a tough question because it depends on everyone. This complete different answer.
Yeah.
Because I can look at every single person in this room and I know exactly how you should be shot. Each person. And I can tell exactly maybe what you need. And like literally I calculate like less than 20 seconds probably on exactly how you should be shot, where your measurements should be, all these kind of things. So I guess, maybe it starts with it starts with someone behind you, an agent that actually has a vision, knows how to put you together. And I might put you together different than Betty might put you together. So it's like, that's the beauty of this business, it's subjective. I always stand behind my shit, but but I also respect if Betty's got vision, I respect that, so it's like,
I'm a blank canvas.
so I think it really starts, every model needs some guidance. Every model needs some guidance. I meet people all the time and right away I can see what they're doing wrong. Whether it's their imagery, their social media, the way they're dressing, the way they're doing their hair, everything. And it's just, I'm not like a genius. I'm not that smart. I'm just like, I've had a lot of experience, hundreds, thousands of experience. So it's just kind of like breaking down where you as an individual and where how we need to image you.
If they can't get signed, if they're just looking and no one's taking them, you might have to leave this market. Sorry, it's like, it's not working for you right now and they might come back later. A lot of people go to Asia, make some money, or, go to Milan, make some money, and then, I don't know, Milan makes money, but, it's sometimes your timing, it's a timing thing too. Guys are hard, because guys have that little window of like when they're the cool young guy, and then they don't do anything for 10 years, and then they can do Brooks Brothers, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard. But luckily now, you're really lucky because honestly, I see all of you, and like 10 years ago, like I was like, well, you're a little bit short, you don't, you're a little bit wider, but now it's like the market is really open. So even though it feels like we're going back a little bit for sure with what's happening politically, but like in general, I think just stay the course, just do things, have like a backup. I'll be honest, I met a model at a party once and he was on the Calvin Klein billboard and he was a coat check guy at the party I was at. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, it's like, but he was doing what he had to do to pay the rent. So you gotta do it in a safe way, don't do crazy stuff, and honestly keep yourself clean, because I think nowadays a lot less, like when we were coming up through, there was a lot more like drug usage, and I think, I don't know, maybe I'm old, but I feel like people know that, it's like, clients won't be like, like Naomi Campbell would show up like 4 hours late, like, clients don't have time for that now. They're like, next, so a lot of those like diva behaviors, like it's gone. You have to be on time, ready, looking good, like being like fresh and open and ready to work.
Betty Z, models.com, give her a hand. You guys, thank you for coming out. It's like, just for you to have this opportunity to meet Betty is just so awesome and everything. She has so much to offer. Thank you for coming here and just seeing a little bit about what we're doing here at the New York Fashion Week Model Suite. It's like, we want to create leaders out of models, all right? We want to really change this shit up and everything. We want to help you really make a difference, because again, this is a moment where it's like there's too much competition. You're about to be replaced by robots. How are you going to respond?
Don't scare them that way.
No, but I want.
All of you.
It's a call to action. How are you going to respond? How are you going to make sure that you are going to compete This is the level of competition and everything. Let's step up. Let's step up and be extraordinary.
Bring your friends and tell them about this. You know, it's like a space. I can't believe it. It's like the space is for you. You know, if I had a place where I could send my models where they could just be free, like that would have been amazing. You know, there was no such thing as support for the models. So, thank you, Greg, for organizing this.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, we are going to change the culture. You know, but it starts with you guys and your determination to be something, to make your life. Look, you're in fucking New York City. Look at this city you're in. This is yours. This place is your world. So make it happen. You know, make it count. You know, but we're going to create leaders. You know, it's like so many great models. We're uniting so many great models that are doing great things and everything to bring under the Supermodel Project. I don't know if Kieran is still here, but you know, who's going to be teaching self-defense? But she's a certified health coach. She's going to be she teaches our spin classes. Chuck, my partner in the Supermodel Project, is a tremendous philanthropist. She does so much work, you know, for the community. I don't know if Zoe Head's still here. I got to meet her today, and she was like, she does this thing where she helps people collect pictures throughout their life, and then helps them do collages to create a collage up there how they see themselves today. And it's going viral. Like all these top models are doing it with her. She does these workshops, and maybe we'll do one here sometime. You know, let's see who else. We have Mariana Santana, who's going to speak. You know, she's going to be speaking Saturday night and everything. And let me tell you, we are going to talk about things that we're not afraid to talk about anymore. We're talking about things that like anxiety, about panic attacks, about self-esteem, things like this, and how to overcome it. She's a top model. She's a top girl and everything. But she's human. All right. I don't know if Danny's here or not. I don't think I saw her. But it's like we've got people here that are going. I've got a model here that is going to teach you guys about how to file your taxes internationally as well. All right. Yeah. So it's like this is how we're going to grow. We're going to grow. We're going to make some serious impact. So so join us. You know, and ask questions. Ask how to be better. And thank you guys. You guys are all amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.